We're here today with actor Michael Bailey Smith. You might remember him as Super Freddy from A Nightmare on Elm Street, Part 5, The Dream Child. He's also been in films like The Hills Have Eyes and the TV show Charmed. He's coming to Minnesota for Crypticon, September 13th through the 15th at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Plymouth. Michael, how you doing today?
Hey, Dustin. All good, all good.
Well, first of all, thanks for joining me. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thanks. It's been a fun ride. This whole acting thing's been a fun ride. Did it for 30 years, and it's just been a blessing. You know, the opportunities I've had, the movies I've done over 100 movies and TV shows, and it's been really good. So I just been blessed. Good stuff.
Most definitely. And you're coming here to Minnesota for Crypticon, September 13th through the 15th, and it seems like you've been doing kind of a lot of these conventions over the years.
Well, yeah, I did them when I started when The Hills Have Eyes came out back in 2006, 2007. I did Hills Have Eyes 1 and 2, and then that kind of was the main attraction of me, I guess, or for me. And then people started discovering who I was, and some of the other things that I've done. Like my first movie ever was Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5. I got to play a bigger version of Freddy Krueger. At the time, he was the only other person that's ever played Freddy Krueger besides Robert Englund, and so I played a bigger version of him, and that was my first role ever. And that led into this big, long, career as an actor. And so I was doing these conventions, and then I stopped, like probably 2010 or so. I just stopped them because I got super busy and I had no time to do it. And then just probably a couple of years ago, a gentleman by the name of Peter DeLorme, he reached out to me and said, "Hey, man, there's people that want to see you, and so meet you." And so I've been doing this last couple of years. It's been fun. I'm trying to get back to it. I love going. I love meeting people, and it's really remarkable to when you're in it and you're doing movies and you're doing TV shows and commercials and all these things, you don't realize that the work you do touches so many different people and so many different types of people. And so when you get to see these, you go to these conventions, you meet these people that it's a big highlight for them and for me too, because I love talking to people. I love sharing stories. I have a lot of, having done all this work, I have, great stories. I'd be a great granddad someday when that happens, hopefully soon. But because I have some tons of stories to tell. It's been good.
Well, and you'll have a lot of opportunity to tell some stories here at Crypticon, and I know a lot of other folks from A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5 are going to be there as well. This is a great opportunity for the fans to see you all together, but also for you, I'm sure, to see everybody again after all these years.
Yeah, it is. Like Danny Hassel and Beatrice and Lisa Wilcox and all of them. Yeah, so these are all the people that were in Nightmare 5 and to see them again. And it's funny, Danny Hassel, who played the lead love interest to Lisa Wilcox. That's how the whole Dream Child thing happened, because Lisa gets pregnant, has the baby, and that's, Freddy comes through the baby's dreams. And so Danny, he didn't, no one knows this, but I played 2 roles in Nightmare on Elm Street 5. So when I was finishing up playing Super Freddy, the casting director and the director were on the set, and so was I, and they kept, I'm there waiting to do my thing, and they kept looking over at me and talking, looking over at me, doing some more talking. And finally, the director comes over and he goes, "Hey, Michael, we're thinking about using you for a love scene." And I'm like, "What, Super Freddy?" And he's like, No. He goes, there's a whole beginning when the credits roll. There's going to be 2 people making love. We have a stunt double, a body double for the lead actress, for Lisa, and we need someone for Danny. And, would you want to do that? I go, "You're going to pay me for this?" He goes, "Yep." I goes, "I'm in." So next thing you know, I'm, on a closed set, half naked, and, we're doing this thing. So, they shot some close-ups of, they needed a muscular back and things like that. And so that was my introduction to Hollywood. I'm like, this is pretty cool. I want to make this a living. So pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you a bit about that. From what I've read, I don't know if all this is true. It seems like quite the circumstances here, but your family was in the Air Force, and then you lived in Iran, and you played for the Dallas Cowboys,
yeah.
and somehow you wound up getting into acting out of that background. I don't imagine anyone else has that same story.
Yeah, so there's a little bit before that. There's yeah, my dad was in the Air Force, an Air Force brat, so I've traveled all around. I actually have a sister that lives in Minneapolis. She hopefully
Okay.
can come to the show, her and her husband. But yeah, we traveled all around. We didn't spend more than probably 2 or 3 years at a time at any one place throughout the country. And then when I got to be, I think, a sophomore in high school, and I was up in Oscoda, Michigan, in that area where there's an Air Force base up there. Not anymore, but there was one called Wordsmith. My dad got stationed in Iran to go, and so he went there. And at the time, there was probably 50,000 or maybe not that many Americans over there in one form or another, meaning working for either civilian, contractors or companies like Boeing or maybe, Bell Helicopter or whatever.
Sure.
And then there's military people that were liaisons to the Iranian Air Force or the Army or whatever. My dad was in the Air Force, and so he was helping the Iranians build an OJT program for, the F-16s and all those things back in the day. And so he was doing all that, and so we went to high school there. I went to high school there, and they had a Toronto American school. They had a mixture of Iranians and Americans that went to this school, and that's where we went. And then, so I wanted my goal was always to play college football, and so no one's going to recruit you from Iran, so there was no scouts there showing up. So I had to figure out how am I going to get to college, and being the oldest of 6 kids, there was no way that I was going to be able to. My parents were going to afford to send me, so I'm thinking, I just have to join the military, and so I did something pretty hardcore. I went into the military in the Army, and in the Army's 82nd Airborne Division as a paratrooper. Did that for 3 years. Got the GI Bill. I got out, and then I had a chance to go to Notre Dame to play football, but I chose a smaller school, still Division I, Eastern Michigan, in the MAC, the Mid-American Conference. And I was there, and I was there for, I started for 4 years and at Eastern, and then got pretty good, and to where the Dallas Cowboys wanted me. And so I ended up going to camp with them until I blew my knee out, and then finished my degree in computer science, and then went out to California chasing some gal out that way, and that didn't last very long. And so I was kind of bumming around in San Diego, and that's when I met this guy named Steve Henneberry, who had dabbled into the acting, and he said, "Hey, I'm going to Los Angeles to read for this movie called Nightmare on Elm Street, and why don't you come with me? Maybe you can audition too." And that's what happened. So I went up there, and he read, and I went in and read, and next thing you know, I got the role. So I'm like, again, first role, didn't know what anything meant. Got on the set, I was scared. Holy crap! I'd lined up against Randy White, playing football, and Too Tall Jones and everybody else. This is a whole different kind of scare. And so it was cool though, and it's what I wanted to do. It was exciting, and it was kind of cool. But yeah, I've lived a very interesting, eclectic life for sure. Very blessed at that. So, but all that doesn't come without hard work. I mean, it just doesn't fall in your lap. If you do get an opportunity, you got to do something with it. Either people are going to say, "No, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing," or stay safe, or they're going to take a chance. And I took the chance, and it seemed to work out. So yeah,
definitely
good stuff.
With that being your first role, did you realize how big Freddy Krueger was, or that franchise at the time? I mean, that was really a big part of pop culture.
Yeah, no. When I was in the military, I saw the first one, right? The first Freddy Krueger, just regular Nightmare on Elm Street. And so by the time I, finished high school and the whole cowboy thing, ended up going to, military, then, the cowboy thing, and then, college cowboys, and then to the Hollywood. Yeah, I still didn't know. I didn't know, and then even doing that, but it's what happened. And that's why someone told me that a lot of people really gravitate to certain things, and the horror genre has really exploded as towards a fan base. And my doing this small role, I have 3 lines: faster than a bastard maniac, more powerful than a local badman. It's Super Freddy, whatever. The whole laugh and the things like that. Doing all that, they have an action figure with that. There's people with tattoos of Super Freddy on their body. And all that's kind of trippy, and I'm very honored, but holy moly, it's pretty crazy. And you just don't know. It's Hills of Eyes. I have people with tattoos of Hills of Eyes. I have people that send me stuff from all over the world, and they're just fans that are just it's what they like. It's like me, I love writing, and I love writing stories, and that's what I'm a big fan of. I love writers, and people who love horror, or people love, guys that at least play in the NFL, where they're big fans. People draw to that, and it gives people, excitement, and because I think without that, without movies and without music and things like that, life would be, I don't know, kind of boring, maybe.
Sure.
But they'd find something to excite them, like jump off a cliff or something. I don't know. So, yeah.
Oh, and I know Super Freddy, that was definitely a favorite scene for a lot of the fans. And I wanted to ask you about that. I mean, that required a lot of makeup and prosthetics. And I know you've done roles on, like the show Charmed and a few other things. It seems like you have to have a kind of a special kind of temperament or patience maybe as an actor to go through that process all the time.
Yes, sir. Normally when you're going through something like that, the first time you go to that, it takes around 3 to 4 hours to get it done, because a lot of, it's one thing, creating these things in a lab, but when you actually have to apply them to someone's face, there's adjustments, right? And I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but people say, you have a great face for prosthetics. And so I don't know if that's good or bad, but what it does mean is that my face is not oily. I don't have it. So when they do provide, they apply the prosthetics with the glue and whatever. And I don't have an oily face, so it's not going to come off. And two, I have a pretty good bone structure, good jawline and cheekbones and things like that. So those prosthetics really pop and really stand out. And so, with me being an actor and the way prosthetics are nowadays, I mean, you can really show a tremendous amount of emotion. If you look at The Hills Have Eyes and a lot of stuff that I did with Pluto, I mean, it's that character's a pretty emotional character, and there's a lot of subtlety to it. So, yeah, it's I've done same thing with Charmed. I did Charmed for 2 years. I played like 4 or 5 different characters on that show, all of them requiring some kind of a prosthetic or extensive makeup. I did Star Trek, Voyager. I did Babylon 5 way back in the day. Yeah, then of course Hills of Ice 1 and 2, and what else? And then Freddy, my first one. So there's been a lot of good stuff with that. So, but what happens when you sit down in the chair, you just know that you're going to be there. You'll be the first ones there on the set, and probably the last ones to leave. Sure. And you get there super early, and you sit in the chair, and you're there for 3 or 4 hours, and you come out of that, and it's great because it's now you're being you're kind of cocooned in this character, and you can't, like someone else who doesn't have the prosthetics on, when they say cut, well, guess what? They drop out of their character a lot of times. Me, I'm in it the whole time because I look like the darn guy, so you walk around with this stuff when you're eating lunch or doing whatever, hanging out with people. But, so when I did The Hills Have Eyes, they had to transport me from one location to another location in Morocco. Very, we're out in the desert. It's a religious country, Muslim oriented. And when I was being transported, they had me in the front seat, and this big herd of sheep came across the road, and the sheep herders saw me in the front seat, threw up their staffs and run off into the hills, thought I was some kind of demon. So it was pretty funny. Yeah, that's happened a few times. So.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's impressive looking over your career and all the big shows you've appeared on. I think outside of the Nightmare on Elm Street stuff, for me, my favorite, I don't know how often this comes up for you, but when you took on Urkel, when he turned into Bruce Lee on Family Matters, I think that was maybe my favorite.
Yeah. Oh, I love that whole, the cast, because I've done a ton of TV shows, right? Everything from Malcolm in the Middle to Wings or Family Matters. It doesn't matter. Murphy Brown. I've done Blackish and Chuck and House and 2.5 Men. So you get, when you show up, and I've done Buffy and all these different things, all these different kind of shows, and really super popular ones. And either when you go to guest star on a show, you're like the guy of the week, right? You show up, or the guy or girl of the week, and show up. And either the cast, who are the series regulars, are going to welcome you with open arms and say, thank you so much for coming here to make our show better, because they do need guest stars, right? If they're just all them just being around, it could be kind of boring. But when they bring in these guest stars to play different kind of characters or whatever, it's always good for the show, and it makes the show better. And most shows are very welcoming, and other ones I've been on, they treated me like crap, which was disappointing. But Family Matters, the whole crew and the whole cast were super open, welcoming. It was just really, really super great to work on that show. Urkel, working with him, I got beat up. He hit me in a few of the private parts during the filming. It was by accident, though. I got nailed pretty good a couple times, but yeah, it's good. It was definitely a blessing to do that show. So it was definitely good. Played Snap. That was my character name, and it's funny. I had a tattoo that wrapped around my neck and came up and then was like a big snake head that came around the side of my face.
Yeah.
I don't have any tattoos, and I wore tons of tattoos. Like when I did Undisputed with Ving Rhames and Wesley Snipes, I was Aryan Brotherhood gang leader. I had swastikas in the back of my head, ABs on my hand. I actually got arrested in Vegas, and they thought I was the real thing. I mean, threw me up like a car. They hooked me up. They, whatever, all that craziness. It was crazy. And but when the stuff's on your face like that, you get people just like stare at you. They'll grab their little kids and like pull them up, their children, and pull them away from you. Think you're some kind of a creep. It's a different type of feeling. So yeah, it's fun though. It's all fun.
Well, again, the resume is impressive, and you're going to be coming to Crypticon here in Minnesota. Is there anything else maybe for you coming up, or maybe like some acting roles or anything we should be watching out for?
Well, I've been writing a tremendous amount. First of all, I want to thank Chaz, the promoter of the show. He's great, and I did one of his shows before in Denver, and so it's just great. My first time coming to Minneapolis to see, to be there for the show. So I'm excited to meet people. And again, my sister and her husband live there. Becky Smith, she's so she's there. It'd be good to see her, but. I've been doing a tremendous amount of writing. I've written a ton of screenplays. I have one that just got optioned. It's called My Good Boy, and it parallels a lot of my life of being a kid who grew up being picked on and beat up in high school. I always had to find new ways at the bus because there's someone waiting to pound on me after school. And what I did, and I used all that anger and all of that frustration and whatever. Get back was to be a good athlete, at least try to be, right? And so high school, my junior, senior year, I did really well in sports. Still was an outcast, but just did really well. And then when I went to the military, I went in weighing 160 pounds, got out weighing 240, and then I went to college and played football, at a high level, and then left there weighing about 290 and went to the Cowboys. But it just tells the story of this guy, this kid who grows up doing that and uses sports as his way to get back and to excel. We've all seen those great sports stories, where someone wins the Super Bowl or someone wins the World Series or a horse wins the greatest race, and all these happy endings. We never hear about the guy who blows out his knee. Like for me, and when I was in camp with the Cowboys, and you blow out your knee and you're left with nothing, and how the depression sets in, how it drives you down a different path. And sometimes it drives you down a path you're not too proud of. And it's that story about a kid who ends up going down this path and he has to fight to get out of it. It's based in Detroit. So it's during the rough times during the 80s, mid 80s, when all the bad stuff was going on then. So it's called My Good Boy. So yeah, that's going to go into production at the end of this year. Super excited. David Jeffries directing and producing. He's done Bones. He's doing Tracker now and a bunch of other TV shows he produces and directs. So excited about it. So yeah, that's what's happening. Good stuff.
Awesome, man. Again, I'm looking forward to Crypticon here and seeing you here in Minneapolis. And
thank you, sir.
I appreciate your time today. Again, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
And again, that was Michael Bailey Smith. He'll be at Crypticon in Minnesota coming up September 13th through the 15th at Crown Plaza Hotel in Plymouth, Minnesota. Go to CrypticonMinneapolis.com for more info.